The sun was slowly rising over the ember plains, casting long shadows across the red soil. The plains stretched far in every direction, smooth and open like a giant quiet field. Most travelers avoided this place because the land was dry, the winds were strong, and there were no natural shelters. But for the human soldiers stationed there, this lonely land was perfect for training. There were no trees to block the view, no hills to hide dangers, and no wildlife to disturb their daily routines. Captain Mira Solis stood near a small metal outpost with her hands behind her back, watching her team run through drills. She liked beginning the morning early. The air was cooler, the sky was calm, and her mind was sharp. Her soldiers trusted her because she never lost her focus, even when things became stressful. Some people called her too quiet. But Mira believed silence was useful. It let her observe details others often missed. Today, the drills were simple. 2 squads moved across the open ground, changing formation every few seconds. They practiced stepping forward, falling back, spreading out, and closing in. Mira watched every movement, noting how fast they adapted. They were improving, and she felt a quiet pride toward them. None of the humans knew that they were being watched by another group, one hidden behind a rocky ridge half a kilometer away. The Watchers were members of the Xerix Dominion, an alien empire known for its strict discipline and advanced technology. The Xerix had arrived the night before, landing silently in the darkness. Their scouting unit had set up small devices to hide their energy signals, making sure the humans could not detect them. Their mission was simple: observe humans and gather information. The Xerix commander, Talivor, stood on the ridge wearing polished armor that reflected the morning light. His tall frame and bright silver eyes made him look almost like a statue. Around him were 5 scouts, all focused on the human soldiers below. Talivor lifted a small recording device and spoke softly. Human behavior. Currently engaged in coordinated drills. Movements adaptable. They adjust formations faster than expected. One of the scouts, a young analyst named Paragon, tilted his head in confusion. Commander, humans look physically weaker than our soldiers, yet their coordination is impressive. Do you believe this species presents a threat? Talivor did not answer right away. He watched Mira walking calmly among her troops, correcting small mistakes with simple hand gestures. There was something steady about her, something he didn't see often, even among his own people. He finally replied, "We must not underestimate a species simply because they look soft. Strength is not always in size. Sometimes it is in the way a species reacts to change." The scouts nodded, but remained unsure. The Xerix Dominion had met many species before, and most were either peaceful, fearful, or overly confident. Humans, however, were a mystery. They were new to the galactic stage, young in comparison to older civilizations, yet they had expanded quickly. The Xerix wanted to know how humans could grow so fast without falling apart. Paragon tapped his device and zoomed in on Mira. "Commander, look at her. She moves differently than the others. Almost like she expects a sudden problem." Talivor agreed. "She is alert. That is rare for a young species. Most new civilizations do not watch for danger unless danger is already present." "Should we contact them?" another scout asked. "No," Talivor said firmly. "We observe first. If we act too soon, we risk misunderstanding." But fate had its own plans. As the human soldiers continued their drills, one of the younger troops, Private Leon, spotted something unusual near the ridge. It was a slight shimmer, just a small reflection, but it stood out in the open landscape. "Captain Mira," Leon called out. "I see something." Mira turned her head toward him. "Where?" Leon pointed toward the ridge. "There, something shiny moved." Mira narrowed her eyes. She trusted Leon's instincts. He was quiet but careful, and he never imagined things. She took out her binoculars and looked toward the ridge. At first, she saw nothing but red rocks, but then she noticed it. A faint glimmer of metal, not natural, not from their equipment. Her heart slowed for a moment. Someone was watching them. She calmly ordered, "All squads, shift to observation formation, do not raise weapons, do not advance, stay alert." The human soldiers reacted instantly. Their formations broke, shifted, and reformed with smooth precision. They spread out in a wide arc, lowering their center of gravity, ready but calm. On the ridge, Talivor inhaled sharply. "They noticed us. Their reaction time is fast." Farron glanced nervously at the commander. "Should we retreat?" "No," Talivor said. "If we flee now, they may think we are hostile. We must handle this carefully." "We reveal ourselves." The scouts hesitated, but they obeyed. Slowly, the Xerix stood up on the ridge, letting the humans see them clearly. Their tall shapes and shining armor made them look like figures carved from metal. Below, the human soldiers tensed, but Mira lifted one hand, signaling them to hold position. Mira stepped forward alone, walking toward the ridge with steady steps. She did not show fear. She did not rush. She simply walked with the calm strength she always carried. Talivor watched her approach. "This human is unusual." Mira stopped at a respectful distance and raised her voice so it carried across the plains. "This is human territory. Identify yourselves." Talivor stepped forward and replied in clear, accented Galactic standard. "We are scouts of the Xerix Dominion. We are here to observe. We did not come to harm." Mira relaxed slightly. "Observation is acceptable. Hiding is not. It makes people nervous." Talivor respected her honesty. "Your reaction was precise, fast. Most species would panic if they sensed hidden scouts." "We train for unknown situations," Mira replied. "The universe is big. Anything can happen." Farron whispered behind the commander. "She speaks like a veteran." "Yes," Talivor answered softly, "and yet she appears young." For a moment, the wind was the only sound between the two groups. A small misunderstanding had brought them face to face, but nothing harmful had happened. It was a good sign. Talivor made a respectful gesture. "We apologize for the alarm. We will leave now and report that humans reacted with discipline." Mira nodded. "Safe travels." But just as the Xerix turned to leave, a sudden gust of wind blew across the ridge, knocking one of their recording devices out of a scout's hand. The small metallic tool bounced off a rock and slid down the slope, stopping only a few meters from Mira. Before Mira could move, another human soldier rushed forward to retrieve it, thinking it was a dangerous object. The Xerix scouts panicked, misreading the movement. One of them activated a defensive drone, which shot a harmless warning beam into the air. The situation changed instantly. Human soldiers stepped forward. Xerix soldiers tensed. Mira lifted both hands and shouted, "Stand down!" Her voice cut through the rising tension. The humans froze. The Xerix lowered their weapons. Then she bent down, picked up the fallen device, held it gently, and offered it back to Talivor with calm eyes. "No harm done," she said. Talivor accepted it slowly. In that moment, he understood something very important. This human captain did not react with fear. She reacted with understanding. Her calm approach prevented a dangerous misunderstanding. As Mira stepped back toward her soldiers, Talivor whispered to his scouts, "Humans are not like any species we have met before." The Xerix scouts nodded in agreement. None of them realized that this simple first encounter would soon spread across the galaxy, beginning a chain of events no one could stop. For now, the Ember Plains were quiet again, but the story had already begun. The morning after the first encounter on the Ember Plains, the air felt different. The human soldiers continued their normal routines, but there was a quiet tension beneath every step. Everyone knew the Xerix had seen their training. Everyone wondered what the aliens were thinking now. Captain Mira Solis stood near the outpost once again, watching her squads warm up. She kept her usual calm expression, but her mind was busy. The Zarek scouts hadn't looked hostile, but they also hadn't looked relaxed. They were studying humans, and no one knew why. Private Leon approached her with a small tablet. "Captain, we received a message. From the Zareks." Mira raised an eyebrow. "A message? What kind?" "Formal. They want to meet again. Today." "Did they say why?" "They want a demonstration." Leon looked uncertain, as if the word confused him. Mira took the tablet and read the message herself. The Zarek's Dominion requested a controlled test of ability. They wanted to understand human reflexes, strength, and awareness. A duel-like scenario, but with rules. No harmful weapons, no intention of injury, a formal challenge between one human representative and one Zarek specialist. Mira exhaled slowly. A duel was not expected, but she understood what the Zareks were doing. They wanted clear data. They wanted to compare. She handed the tablet back to Leon. "Prepare the team. Tell command, I will go represent us." Leon's eyes widened. "You, Captain? There is no one better suited, and the Zareks seem to trust me." Leon nodded and hurried off, leaving Mira to gather her thoughts. She wasn't nervous. She didn't fear the Zareks. She respected them, and they seemed to respect her. But she knew this challenge meant something more important than a simple demonstration. It would shape how the aliens viewed humanity. Across the Ember Plains, the Zareks had gathered near the same ridge as the day before. This time, they brought more equipment, recording drones, analysis scanners, and a small energy barrier to mark the dual space. They had also brought someone new, Ralvin. He was taller than the scouts, his armor darker, his movements sharper. Ralvin belonged to a Zarek's combat order trained for precision and speed. His role was not to harm opponents, but to test them. He studied the humans carefully, curious and serious. Commander Talivor stood beside him. "Remember, this is not a real combat. You will test, not defeat." Ralvin nodded. "Understanding a species requires pressure. I will apply only safe pressure." "That is all we need." Ralvin waited patiently, arms behind his back, until he saw humans approaching. Mira led the group, walking steadily with two officers beside her. She kept her shoulders straight and her eyes forward. Her calm presence caught Ralvin's attention immediately. "So this is the human from yesterday," he murmured. Talivor nodded. "Her discipline prevented conflict. She will represent her people well." The humans stopped a few meters from the Zareks. Mira stepped forward and made a simple, respectful gesture. "We received your invitation." Talivor returned the gesture. "We thank you for accepting. We wish to understand your reflex abilities. This is not a contest of victory. It is a demonstration." Mira nodded. "I understand. What are the rules?" Ralvin stepped forward, speaking for the first time. His voice was low and steady. "I will throw a practice blade toward you. It is dull, light, and cannot injure. Your task is to react however you choose. Step away, block it, catch it, or simply avoid it. The goal is to measure your natural reactions." The human soldiers looked uneasy. A thrown blade sounded risky. But Mira studied Ralvin's eyes. She sensed no threat, only curiosity. She agreed with a simple nod. "I accept." Her soldiers stepped back to give space, though they remained ready to help if anything went wrong. The Zarek's drones lifted into the air, forming a circle around the duel ground. Their lenses glowed faint blue, recording every angle. A gentle hum filled the air as scanners powered on. Ralvin drew a small metallic blade from his belt. It was about the size of a human hand, smooth and shaped like a leaf. Its edges were not sharp, and it lacked any dangerous point. It was a tool of testing, not hurting. Talivor raised his hand. Begin when ready. Ralvin's posture changed instantly. His spine straightened. His shoulders aligned and his arm angled precisely. He held the blade loosely, almost casually, but with perfect control. Mira stood 20 paces away, relaxing her breathing. She focused on the wind, on Ralvin's arm. On the way, his eyes narrowed slightly. She didn't know what speed he could throw at, but she prepared for anything. For a moment, the world felt still. Then Ralvin moved. The blade shot forward with incredible speed, faster than a normal human would expect, but not beyond Mira's trained limits. Her eyes locked onto its movement. She didn't think. She didn't plan. Her body reacted on instinct. She pivoted on one foot, shifted her weight back, lifted her arm, and her fingers closed around the blade smoothly, stopping it mid-air before it could pass her. The world froze. Human soldiers stared with wide eyes. Zarek scouts stiffened in disbelief. Talivor's jaw almost dropped. Ralvin blinked, stunned for the first time in many years. He hadn't expected her to catch it. Most species either dodged too late or panicked. But this human moved like she had seen the throw before it even happened. Mira lowered her hand slowly, holding the blade carefully so everyone could see she was unharmed. Her expression stayed calm and neutral, almost casual. She walked forward and offered the blade back to Ralvin. Your throw was accurate. Ralvin accepted it mechanically, still processing what he saw. You caught it, without hesitation. It was the simplest option, Mira said gently. Humans behind her whispered in amazement. Zarek's scouts exchanged shocked looks. Talivor stepped forward. Record this moment. This is significant. The drones tightened their focus, gathering every detail. Even the wind seemed to pause, as if the planes themselves wanted to witness the moment. Mira stepped back to her place. Is there more to the demonstration? Ralvin looked down at the blade, then back at her. No. This is enough. Talivor exhaled slowly, feeling a mix of respect and awe. Captain Mira Solis, your action will be discussed across our dominion. Humans are different from what we expected. Mira didn't react with pride. She simply nodded. We train for many situations. Reflex is important. Ralvin stepped back quietly, almost humbled. He had trained for decades, yet this human caught his fastest test throw like it was natural. Commander Talivor addressed both groups. Today, we learned something important. Humans hold abilities that deserve respect. We thank you for this demonstration. Mira replied with polite calm. Understanding between species is important. The drones slowly lowered, the scanners dimmed, and the air finally felt normal again. But everyone knew something powerful had happened. Humans and Zareks exchanged careful glances, not fearful, but thoughtful. Something old had shifted. Something new had begun. As the Zareks prepared to leave, Ralvin paused beside Talivor. Commander, yes, Ralvin? If this human is average for their species, then a war with them would be a mistake. Talivor looked across the plains at Mira standing among her soldiers. I believe you are correct. Back at the human outpost, the soldiers gathered around Mira. How did you catch that so fast? Did you know he would throw it like that? Captain, that was amazing. Mira shook her head gently. It was only instinct. Anyone can learn it. But the truth was clear. Not everyone could do what she did. And even Mira didn't fully understand how natural it felt. When the sun set, Mira looked across the quiet plains. She sensed that the demonstration had changed something important in the galaxy. She didn't know how big the change would be, but she knew one thing. The Zareks would never look at humans the same way again. And they were right. Because the moment a human caught a blade in midair, a message traveled silently through the stars. Humans react faster than fear, and that makes them unpredictable. The sun had barely risen over the Ember Plains when the news began spreading. Not on the human network, but across the Xerix Dominion. Every scout drone, every analysis station, and every command center carried the same notification. Human Captain Mira Solis catches Xerix test blade mid-air. Analysis required. Within hours, the footage of the moment was being examined frame by Xerix specialists in distant star systems. No one had expected such a result. The Dominion was known for testing the strength, reflex, and discipline of new species. Usually, the results were simple to understand. Most species reacted slowly, predictably, or with fear. But this time was different. This time, the human reacted before the Xerix observers could even blink. On the Xerix capital world, far away from the Ember Plains, a council chamber buzzed with controlled excitement. The room was long and circular, with glowing screens surrounding the walls. Each screen showed a different angle of the same moment, Mira's hand closing around the blade. High Counselor Arvin stood at the center, his silver eyes reflecting the footage. "Play it again," he ordered. A drone replayed the motion in slow speed. Mira dodged, pivoted, and caught the blade with gentle precision. No panic, no hesitation. Her grip was firm but controlled. Counselor Reth, a tall strategist, leaned forward. "This is not normal reflex. This is something else." Counselor Bexon, a scientist, tapped her claws lightly against a datapad. Based on timing measurements, the human reacted in less than half the time expected. She moved before most species could even recognize the blade's direction. Arvin nodded. "And the blade was thrown by Ralvin, the fastest duelist in the Dominion." "That is what makes this so important," Reth replied. "If she can react like this, how many other humans can do the same?" Bexon looked thoughtful. "Humans have only recently entered interstellar society. Their biological data is incomplete, but early research suggests they come from a world full of hardship, storms, predators, unpredictable climates. It shaped them." Reth frowned. "Are you saying humans evolved to expect danger?" "Yes," Bexon said. "They lived on a world that never stayed calm. Their instincts were forged through constant adaptation." Arvin folded his arms. "That explains their survival skills, but not this level of reflex." The council fell silent again as the footage played once more. Mira's movements looked almost too natural, too smooth. There was no sign of fear in her eyes, only focus. Arvin finally said, "Send a message to all fleets. Until further study, no hostile actions toward humans." No one objected. On the Ember Plains, humans remained unaware of the growing stir across the galaxy. Mira returned to her normal duties, though her soldiers treated her differently now. They admired her before, but today their respect had grown into something deeper, something close to awe. Private Leon approached her during midday training. "Captain, may I ask a question?" "Of course." "Do you think the Xerix will come back soon? Yesterday felt big, important." Mira looked toward the horizon. "Yes, they will come back." "How do you know?" "Because they did not understand what happened. They will want answers." Leon nodded slowly. "Do you think they were impressed?" Mira smiled faintly. "I think they were surprised, and surprise leads to curiosity." She resumed watching the soldiers train. But in her mind, she kept thinking about the moment she caught the blade. It felt natural then, but now she realized how unusual it must have looked to others. She didn't want to become a symbol. She simply wanted peace and understanding. Still, something told her the galaxy had taken notice. In another part of space, on a distant Xerix cruiser, two officers discussed the event while studying holographic analysis. Officer Karen, a younger Xerix who had never met a human, said, "She caught it like she practiced it 1,000 times." Officer Ceylon shook his head. "We have trained species that rely on speed. But none reacted like this. Humans should not be dismissed. Karen tilted his head. Do you think humans are dangerous? Selen responded calmly. Every species is dangerous in its own way. But humans seem dangerous because they are unpredictable. And unpredictability changes battles. Karen watched the hologram again. He felt something he rarely felt toward another species: respect. Back on the Ember Plains, the wind carried sand across the open ground. Mira stood alone near the ridge where everything had happened. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the cool breeze brush against her face. She wondered about the Xerix. Would they see humanity as a threat now, or as an equal? She hoped for the second. As she opened her eyes, she saw a small flash of light in the sky, a Xerix shuttle descending. Mira called her squad over but raised her hand to keep them calm. It's a peaceful landing, she said. The shuttle touched down gently, and Talivor stepped out, followed by 2 analysts. Just as before, their posture was respectful. Talivor approached Mira with a serious expression. Captain Solis, we come with information. Mira nodded. I am listening. The footage of your demonstration has reached our dominion. Our scientists and commanders are studying it. Many are concerned. I did not intend to cause concern, Mira replied softly. I know, Talivor said, but what you did was not small. It changed how our people see your species. Mira remained quiet. She could sense that Talivor was choosing his words carefully. One of the analysts stepped forward. Captain, your reflex was beyond what we predicted. We want to understand it. Would you answer some questions? Mira nodded. Of course. The analyst asked simple things. How long had she trained? How did she react so fast? Did humans often practice catching objects? Did she have any enhancements? Her answers were simple. No enhancements. Years of training. Many drills involving quick reactions. Experience with unpredictable conditions. The Xerix took notes carefully. Talivor finally asked, Captain Mira, were you afraid during the demonstration? Mira thought for a moment. No, I was focused. Fear comes when something is unknown or uncontrolled. But your throw was controlled. Talivor studied her face, then glanced at the analysts. You see, humans do not fear pressure. They adapt to it. Mira wasn't sure if that was completely true, but she didn't argue. The analysts bowed slightly. Thank you. This helps us greatly. When they returned to their shuttle, Talivor stayed behind for 1 moment longer. Captain, he said quietly, I believe something important is happening. The Dominion is changing its view of humanity. They will treat your people with greater caution now. Caution can lead to misunderstanding, Mira replied. Yes, Talivor agreed. But it can also lead to respect. And respect leads to peace. Mira appreciated his honesty. Then I hope this change will be good for both of us. Talivor nodded respectfully, then boarded the shuttle. Mira watched it rise into the sky until it disappeared behind a cloud. Far from the human colony, the Xerix Dominion Council held another urgent meeting. Conversations filled the chamber, louder this time. Counselor Reth spoke firmly. Humans show natural adaptability. Their behavior under pressure is not common. We must consider that humans may grow faster than other young species. Counselor Bexon added, They are unpredictable. They change strategies quickly. They react before thinking, yet with surprising accuracy. Arvin looked at them both. The question is simple. Are humans a danger or an opportunity? Silence filled the chamber. Finally, Bexon answered. Humans are a new force in the galaxy. They could be allies, but if pushed into conflict, we may not understand how to fight them. Reth nodded. Then we should avoid hostility. Arvin raised his hand, signaling agreement. We will proceed with diplomacy. We will learn more about them, and we will prepare for peaceful relations." The council members bowed their heads in respect. Across the galaxy, other species who had access to Zarek's communication channels heard rumors. Rumors about a human who caught a blade mid-air without fear. Many of them had never met a human before, but the story spread fast. Stories always traveled faster than ships. Some species became curious. Some became nervous. Some became cautiously hopeful. But all of them agreed on one thing: humans were not ordinary. On the Ember Plains, the day came to a quiet end. Mira watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and red. She did not know about the galaxy-wide discussions happening in distant places. She did not know she had become a topic of intense conversation. But she sensed that something was shifting. The wind whispered across the plains as stars began to appear. And far above those stars, the story of the blade-catching human continued to spread. The galaxy was listening. The meeting hall in the Zarek's High Council ship was silent. Even though the room was filled with high-ranking leaders, no one spoke for a long time. They all stared at a large holoscreen floating in the center of the chamber. The paused frame on the screen showed the human officer, Captain Mira Solis, holding the spinning blade she had caught in mid-air during the duel. Her posture was calm, and her eyes were steady. The Zarek's leaders knew that this single moment had changed everything. High Chancellor Varel finally broke the silence. His voice was low, but everyone heard the concern in it. "We must decide today," he said. "War or retreat?" No one answered him directly. Instead, they shifted in their seats, clearly troubled. The Zarek's dominion had fought many battles. They had faced strong enemies. They had conquered planets with advanced weapons and powerful fleets, but they had never seen anything like this. They had never seen a human catch a weapon traveling so fast that most machines could hardly track it. Counselor Cian, a specialist in combat behavior, stood up next. "Humans are unpredictable," she said. "Their actions do not follow the patterns we understand. That makes them hard to fight." Lord Verac, the lead scientist, nodded as he replayed the footage again. He had been studying it for days, slowing it down frame by frame. "There is no enhancement, no hidden device, no manipulation," he said. "The human simply reacted. It was instinct, not fear." Another council member frowned. "A single moment should not stop a war." Verac looked at him. "It was not the single moment. It was what the moment revealed." The others leaned forward, listening carefully. Verac continued, his voice calm but serious. "Humans grow stronger under pressure. Their instincts sharpen. Their bodies respond faster. They learn quickly even during a fight. They do not freeze when something unexpected happens. Instead, they adapt." He paused the footage again on Mira's hand around the blade. "This is not only skill. It shows that humans are ready to face something unknown without losing control." Chancellor Varel sighed. He understood exactly what Verac meant. If the Dominion pushed forward with a full war, humans might rise even faster. Their creativity, willpower, and reflexes would not make them weak. They would make them more dangerous. "We may be creating an enemy we cannot defeat," he thought to himself. But still, the decision had to be official. "We will vote," he finally said. "Prepare your positions." Before they could begin, a message suddenly flashed across the council table. It was from the frontline battalion stationed near the Ember Plains on the human frontier world. The message was urgent. "Human patrol approaching," it said. "Awaiting orders." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. The battalion was large and heavily armed, but after watching the footage so many times, even the soldiers in that battalion had begun to feel a strange caution toward the humans. High Chancellor Varel sent a reply, "Hold your position, do not provoke." The council continued its debate, but the tension in the air was growing stronger. The decision was no longer just political. It was happening right now on the frontier. The encounter on the Ember Plains. On the surface of the planet, the grass of the Ember Plains moved gently in the warm wind. A small human patrol walked across the land, scanning the horizon calmly. Among them were Captain Mira Solis and her team. After the duel, Mira had continued her duties without giving much thought to what her action had meant to the aliens. She had no idea her simple reflex had shaken an empire. One of her team members, Lieutenant Harris, checked his scanner. "We're picking up a large group of Zarek's forces ahead," he said. Mira nodded. "Stay calm. Keep formation." The humans advanced slowly but confidently. They saw the Zarek's battalion lined up ahead, their tall figures standing completely still. Their weapons were not raised, but their posture showed tension. Yet something was different. The Zarek's soldiers were not preparing to attack. They were not shouting warnings. They were frozen, as if unsure of what to do. Mira stopped her patrol at a safe distance. She raised a hand in greeting, keeping everything peaceful. Across the field, the Zarek's commander felt his legs grow stiff. He had seen the footage of Mira catching the blade. In his mind, the image replayed again and again. He remembered her calm expression, her steady posture, her simple but powerful reaction. When he saw her standing in front of his battalion, he felt a strange chill in his chest. Not fear, but realization. If war started, soldiers like her would be everywhere. One of his officers whispered, "Commander, should we prepare weapons?" The commander shook his head quickly. "No," he said. His voice shook a little, but he forced himself to speak clearly. "Lower your weapons, all of you." The entire battalion obeyed. The humans noticed this immediately. Lieutenant Harris blinked. "Are they surrendering?" "No," Mira said softly. "They're choosing not to fight." She stepped forward slowly, showing she meant no harm. The Zarek's commander took one step forward too, his posture respectful. He spoke in a clear voice. "We do not wish for battle," he said. "A war between our species would not bring good results." Mira nodded once. "We also prefer peace." The moment was simple, but powerful, and somewhere far above them, watching through the battalion's cameras, the High Council saw everything. They watched their soldiers lower their weapons first. They watched the humans remain calm and steady. They watched the possibility of war dissolve in a single peaceful exchange. The Council's final call back in the Council chamber, High Chancellor Varel closed his eyes for a moment. The decision was already clear. "We cannot fight them," he said. "We will seek peace." There were no objections this time. Every council member had seen the same thing. The Zarek's battalion froze, not because humans frightened them, but because humans had earned their respect in a way no other species had. Even when standing face to face, humans stayed calm, steady, and composed. The war was already lost. Not through battle, but through understanding. Chancellor Varel opened a channel to the Dominion fleet. His voice carried the final decision. "Withdraw from offensive positions," he ordered. "Send a formal request to meet with human leadership. We choose the path of cooperation." As the messages spread across the fleet, Zarek's ships began adjusting their formations. Weapons were powered down, engines switched to peaceful travel mode. Across the galaxy, commanders and diplomats read the news with mixed emotions: surprise, relief, and deep curiosity. Many wondered why the Dominion had changed its stance so suddenly. But the Council knew the answer. A human caught a blade, a simple action, a simple instinct. But it showed something powerful. Humans did not break when challenged. They rose higher. Ripples. Across the stars. While the fleets repositioned, Lord Varak remained seated in the council chamber, studying the footage one last time. Even after all the analysis, the moment still surprised him. He whispered to himself, "They grow stronger under pressure, not weaker." He understood now why the war had been lost before it even began. Humans had something rare, something that could redirect the fate of entire civilizations. Back on the Ember Plains, Captain Mira and her patrol walked back to their base. Harris spoke with a puzzled tone. "Do you think they'll try anything else?" Mira shook her head. "No. I think they're trying to understand us. And maybe they learned something today." She looked over her shoulder. The Xerix battalion was already turning away, walking back toward their transport ships. Mira didn't know it yet, but this one moment, the moment when aliens froze in front of her, would lead to the first peaceful treaty between their species. And all of it had started with a single blade caught in midair. The sun rose slowly over the Ember Plains, painting the sky with soft shades of orange and gold. The land that had once been quiet now carried a new energy. Temporary structures stood across the field, each one built to host the most important meeting in the history of both species. Humans and Xerix officials moved around, preparing for the signing of the treaty that would formally end all tension between their worlds. Captain Mira Solis arrived early. She stood at the edge of the plains, looking around with calm eyes. She still found it difficult to understand how her simple action during the duel had created such a massive change. She had caught the blade because it was the safest thing to do in that moment. She never imagined it would shake an entire empire. Lieutenant Harris walked up beside her. "Never thought this place would host a peace treaty," he said with a half-smile. Mira nodded. "Neither did I, but I'm glad it did." Across the field, a Xerix delegation stepped out of a transport ship. Their tall, slender figures looked graceful under the morning light. At the front of their group was Chancellor Varel himself, the leader of the Xerix Dominion. His movements were calm and respectful, showing no sign of the tension that had once existed. Human representatives stood ready near the central pavilion. Diplomats, officers, scientists, and observers all gathered for this moment of unity. A gentle wind moved through the grass. It seemed as if the plains were welcoming the peace. The first greeting Chancellor Varel approached the human delegation with a steady gait. His advisors followed behind him, carrying sealed data scrolls containing the agreement text. When he reached Mira, he paused. He looked at her with a respectful expression. "Captain Mira Solis," he said, "your action changed our understanding of your species." Mira felt slightly embarrassed, but tried not to show it. "I only reacted to a threat," she responded gently. "I didn't intend to make anything dramatic happen." Varel shook his head slowly. "Sometimes, meaning is found not only in action, but in the nature behind the action. You did not show anger. You did not show fear. You responded with calm awareness. That is what made our soldiers freeze." Harris whispered softly, "Told you that move was legendary." Mira gave him a quiet look, and he quickly went silent. Chancellor Varel then turned to the human diplomats. "We thank you for agreeing to this meeting," he said. Human diplomat Aidan Clark stepped forward. He smiled warmly. "We are glad the Dominion chose peace. Cooperation is better than conflict." The two leaders shook hands, a symbol that would be remembered for ages. A new understanding. As the ceremony began, both sides moved into the central pavilion. Long tables were arranged neatly, and transparent screens displayed the treaty text in both human and Xerix languages. Each part of the agreement had been carefully discussed over several days. Both species agreed to share research, support peaceful exploration, and protect each other's borders. Inside the pavilion, scientists from both sides compared notes. They spoke about communication systems, medical research, and starship technology. Officers discussed border patrol routines and emergency protocols. Diplomats talked about cultural exchange programs to help their citizens learn about each other. Mira watched all these interactions with quiet happiness. She had fought in many situations before, but this, Seeing two species learn from one another felt more important than any battle she had been in. Chancellor Varel turned toward her again. "You must understand," he said gently. "Our species believed humans were simple and new to space. We thought victory would be easy, but that idea was wrong." Mira nodded. "Misunderstandings happen." "Yes," Varel agreed, "but not all beings can admit their mistake. Today we do." Around them, the atmosphere was peaceful. There were no raised voices, no anger, only steady conversations and shared curiosity. The signing ceremony. As noon approached, both species gathered around the main stage. A long table stood at the center, covered with a soft white cloth. On it rested two digital signers, each ready to capture the signatures that would mark the start of a new era. The wind grew quiet, as if waiting for the moment. Chancellor Varel stepped up first. He placed his hand on the device, and a soft blue light scanned his palm. His name appeared instantly on the treaty, glowing brightly. A wave of calm spread across the Xerix delegation. Then it was the human diplomat's turn. Aiden Clark placed his hand on the second device. A soft green light scanned his hand, and his signature appeared. A gentle chime sounded, signaling the successful signing of the Treaty of the Ember Plains. The gathered watchers, both humans and Xerix, began to applaud. The sound spread across the plains like a rising breeze. It was not loud or wild. It was steady, warm, and full of relief. Chancellor Varel looked out at the crowd. "Today marks the end of misunderstanding," he said, "and the beginning of shared progress." Aiden Clark added, "Let this moment be a reminder that even small actions can guide the path of history." His eyes briefly glanced at Mira when he said that. Mira's reflection. Once the ceremony ended, people from both sides began to interact freely. Some Xerix soldiers approached humans with curiosity, asking about their training techniques. Human engineers eagerly questioned Xerix officers about their energy systems. It was the beginning of cooperation, not competition. Mira walked away from the center for a moment to stand by a quiet patch of tall grass. She looked up at the sky where ships from both species hovered in peaceful formation. She breathed slowly, letting the calm air fill her lungs. Harris joined her again. "You okay, Captain?" She nodded. "Just thinking about how strange life is. One day we were preparing for war, and now we're signing a treaty." He laughed softly. "Well, you caught a spinning blade in front of a whole alien audience. Can't say that's normal." "Anyone trained could have done it," she said modestly. "Maybe," Harris replied. "But you did it in the right moment. That's what mattered." Mira stayed silent for a few seconds. She wasn't the type to seek attention. She had only done what she believed was necessary. Still, she understood that life sometimes took unexpected paths. A message for the future. Later in the evening, Chancellor Varel approached Mira once more. His expression was thoughtful. "I have written something for our historical record," he said. "I wish for you to hear it before it becomes official." Mira looked at him with polite curiosity. "Of course." Varel opened a small datapad and read aloud. "On the Ember Plains, we saw that humans do not rise through anger or pride. They rise through instinct, awareness, and calm strength. When a human caught a blade in the air, we understood a truth that ended a war before it began." Mira listened quietly. She felt surprised, even humbled. "You honor us with your words," she said. "We honor the truth," Varel corrected gently. "And the truth is that peace was the wise choice." He closed the pad and bowed his head slightly. Mira nodded back respectfully. Two species, one horizon. As the day ended, the plains glowed in the soft light of evening. Human and Xerix flags stood side by side, moving gently in the wind. A peaceful silence settled over the area, a silence filled with understanding, not fear. Transport ships began preparing to depart. Delegates boarded their vessels carrying copies of the treaty and new hope for cooperation. Mira and her patrol stood watching until the last Zarek ship lifted off. The engines hummed softly, leaving behind a trail of gentle light. Harris looked at Mira. "So, what now?" "Now," Mira said with a small smile. "Now we build something better." And she meant it. The galaxy had changed, not because of a large battle or a powerful weapon, but because of a single moment of human instinct, a moment that proved calm strength could stop a war. The Ember Plains grew quiet again as the sun dipped below the horizon, and in that peaceful space, a new chapter between two species truly began.